So if you're like a lot of Americans, you may not really know where this war in Ukraine came from. The press wants you to think that Vladimir Putin just woke up one day and was like, I'm going to go conquer Ukraine. They want you to think that he's just another Hitler going around randomly being evil. Well, that's a lie. This war is brought about by the incompetence and arrogance of our own State Department as much as it was created by Vladimir Putin. Here's some history for you. Ukraine used to be not a country at all. 400 years ago, its pieces were split up between Poland, Russia, and the Muslim Empire called the Crimean Khanate. About half the country was basically uninhabited because if you tried to start a town there, Muslim raiders would simply ride in, kidnap you, and sell you into slavery. Well, in the 1700s, Russia conquered this whole region. They settled the parts that were uninhabited. They conquered the Crimea and the parts owned by Poland. Later, the borders of Ukraine were created by Vladimir Lenin after his communist revolution. So what does this all mean? Well, it's why Ukraine is such a mess today, because those empty parts of Ukraine that Russia settled were settled by Russians. They speak Russian. They call themselves Russians. They'd rather just be Russia rather than Ukraine. When the Soviet Union fell, they simply used the borders created by the communists. So what you have is this failed country where half the population is pro-Russia and the other half hates Russia. That's too bad. But then we went and made it worse. In 1990, the Soviet Union allowed the two Germanys to reunify. When they agreed to that, we promised them that we would not expand NATO any further east. But as soon as the Soviet Union collapsed, we simply broke that promise. We let in Poland and Hungary and Romania and a bunch of other countries, and this made Russia freak out because guess what? NATO is an alliance created for one purpose, to fight Russia. So for the last 15 years, the U.S. has been agitating for Ukraine to join NATO too, but this was happening too slowly, so we decided to meddle in that country as well. In 2014, Ukraine had a revolution. CNN will claim that they overthrew a dictator to restore a democracy. That's BS. Ukraine's president in 2014 was democratically elected. Everybody on all sides admitted that the vote to elect him was fair, but then we were unhappy when he started to pursue more pro-Russia policies. So when some people started pulling BLM-style protests against his government, our CIA gave them support. So did our media. It was all a stunt to make a violent coup d'etat look like a popular uprising. You had rioters murdering police, and then when the police shot back, we claimed that this was a dictator just massacring civilians. Totally bogus. But we ramped up the pressure, and we forced the Ukrainian president to flee the country. Then a new government came in that was more eager to be our slave. This is the government that paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to bribes to Hunter Biden. This is the government that also did everything Democrats wanted to do here. They kicked all their political enemies out of their jobs. They banned TV channels that they don't like. They arrested their political opponents and made a trumped-up treason charge. Well, some parts of Ukraine didn't go along with the coup, and they fought back, and they turned to Russia. For the past 8 years, we've had a million chances to compromise. We could have agreed to keep Ukraine out of NATO. We could have pressured Ukraine to become more decentralized so both ethnic Russians and ethnic Ukrainians could be happy, but we didn't do that. So finally, Russia got fed up, and here we are.